UCLA, Mick Cronin, 94, Iowa, 70. 24-point win, and to be honest, it wasn't even that close. It wasn't that close. This game was over 10 minutes in, and Mick Cronin, a couple weeks ago, you could sense the frustration with Mick Cronin. He doesn't really hide a whole lot, and in the post-game press conference, he called out everybody, pretty much everybody but himself, right? I mean, he
went
called
down
out
the
his
line.
team. Yeah, he called out his assistant coaches. He talked about how many wins he has and how old he is and how he doesn't have to do it anymore and how he walks in the building with more pride than anybody else. Well, I mean, UCLA, at one point here, they were 11-2, and then they lost 4 straight. Obviously, travel is a factor, and I kind of want to talk to you guys about this a little bit, maybe not at the outset with the travel, but just, is this UCLA team – because I think early on, everybody had him ranked in the preseason pretty much. Everybody thought Mick Cronin, okay, the international experiment didn't work a year ago, kind of went back to, his roots a little bit, but he still doesn't really have guys that completely fit what he wants. And I'm not sure he's ever going to at UCLA. He was lucky with Jaime Jaquez. He was lucky with Tiger Campbell. Like, those guys fit him, but he didn't recruit them. He inherited them. I think it's going to be hard for him at UCLA to get his type of players, T.O. You just don't have them out in the West Coast as much. Let's face it.
No, you really
I went
don't.
to school in Arizona. Right. They're softer.
Yeah, you
they
really
are.
don't. I don't know if Tyler can attest to this. I always thought West Coast guys were a little soft. Like, and Tyler, am I wrong here? You played with a couple California guys. I was in the G League with one of the guys that you were with, and he wasn't soft, but like it took him a while to get tough. But was that your outlook or no?
Well, I thought all city kids were soft growing up.
Hey, you know
That's
what?
just the
I'm
way I
with you
look.
there too.
It wasn't just a West Coast thing. It was in the big city. You get up, you have everything kind of catered to you. We work for everything down where I'm from.
Hell yeah.
That's just my
perspective. Don't fire me up. It's Friday. Don't fire me up. I thought the exact same way. I was like, fuck these dudes. They got everything. And like the big like name AAU teams that like damn near chartered planes, even back when we were playing, it used to drive me insane. Meanwhile, we drove 12 hours to get to a tournament, and I'd be all pissed off. Sorry, go ahead, T. My bad.
No, I'm just – hey, listen, I'm agreeing with you. I mean, they don't know a 2-hour bus ride to play a high school basketball game. There's a lot of high schools, whatever city. But back to Nick Cronin, UCLA. Listen, I'm a huge Nick Cronin fan. I've always really liked his style. I think he's a great defensive coach. He beats teams up. He wins ugly. He finds ways to win games with, he's always done this with less talented teams as well. You can look at the time he went to the tournament, played a playing game, and ended up in the Final Four. I will say I loved his comments, and I know he got a lot of criticism from the outside, especially from some big reporters. I love what he said, and there's not enough coaches holding players accountable. And he really took a gamble.
Wait, Tyler. I agree with you. For the most part. He had me until he basically took himself off the hook. That's the only thing I'll say. And he started talking about how many wins he had. Like, come on, man. Like you got to take some responsibility too. You recruited those guys.
That's true. And it's also, it's sometimes, what he said up there was the truth. I mean, he didn't lie up there. It is what it is. Nope. And, sometimes you get a kid and they have these outside influences that create a picture. And, in some ways, a lot of kids right now are delusional. And they're listening to so many voices outside. Maybe he's saying some things that need to be said and heard and telling some other people that are talking to his team, hey, maybe I know basketball a little bit better than the outsiders. And I will say, you look at the next game at Maryland, what did he do? He got ejected. And he said, no, you aren't going to treat us like this. So he turned around. What I like about that one is he had his players back. Maybe some players weren't real receptive to what he said. But I'll say when a head coach gets tossed because they aren't getting the whistle, your team's going to fight for you even more. So, he could have won the locker room back like that. I like that. I respect it. Plus, Nick Cronin, he does have the best dress game in all college. I mean, his suits, I like
yes,
that, the old school. Kind of reminds me of an old school mafia boss sometimes, but yeah.
I love that point. Like sometimes maybe Mick wasn't talking to his team per se. Maybe he was like, I already got 500 wins. Like, maybe he's talking to somebody's parents, maybe somebody's mama indirectly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I didn't even consider that. Now, it did come off a little bit as blaming, and I understand that. But same time, like, nothing was false. I've got 500 wins. Yeah, he does. I bring the heat every day. I'm sure. I have no doubt that's true. And let's be honest, guys. Guys getting paid a lot of money. You better bring the juice. You better bring the juice to practice. You're only playing 30-something games. If you're lucky, like, you're going to have to play hard, and you're going to have to, play with some force. That's where Mick has had success throughout his coaching career. Teams that play with force. This team hadn't done that. Tonight they finally did it. And, I agree with Tyler. You get ejected, you have your team's back. That can really turn things around. And whenever that happens and you have buy-in, we know what kind of talent they have because we knew about the talent whenever the season came. I've also been in those locker rooms when Purnell undressed basically every one of us. He went down the line, each row, and then told us what we all sucked at. And then, those things happen. They happen more behind closed doors, but, those things happen. And Tyler brought up a great point. He might not have been talking to his team. And I didn't even consider that until just sitting here listening to him.
Yeah, my guess is you're both right. He probably, whatever he said in that post-game press conference, he probably already said to them over and over and over. It wasn't anything new. He had probably tried it behind closed doors and finally got to the point where he was just so frustrated. He said, what the hell? I'm going to try this and publicly call him out. And maybe then they'll play a little bit different. And, again, I also do feel like the travel of UCLA is different in USC, and it's going to catch up with them a little bit. I mean, you look at it at Nebraska. I think they went back home maybe to Michigan, then they went out to Maryland and Rutgers and then come back home. I don't know how much, again, you guys would know this, like how much is that really going to impact these kids? Tyler?
Oh, it's real, man. Go ahead, T.
Listen, I watched Cal come to the Smith Center and get absolutely dominated. And when I was watching the game, I was like, man, Cal looks like they're on the back end of a Vegas bender. And, I said that. And the reason I said that is because I know what it feels like when you're playing the NBA and you go on a West Coast trip. Like, it is real, like hotel room. You're on the road for about a week. I was under the impression that these West Coast teams, when they come over to the East Coast, they would stay here for a week and kind of like I figured that when they're in North Carolina, they're going to play UNC, Duke, State, Wake Forest, and then maybe Clemson, then get back over to the West Coast. No, they're making these trips back and forth. And Stojakovic, I could just tell that he didn't have his legs. And that travel, that 5-hour flight back and forth, versus where UNC, Duke, and these other teams, they're taking bus trips, 40-minute, chartered planes. Like I can't imagine towards the end of the year that these guys are going to have their legs and they're going to feel like they just played an NBA season.
I'm going to be honest, man. Like I do when I do my Mountain West stuff and I have to go like Atlanta, Salt Lake to Boise, like that's a trip, man. And by the time you get there, you're whipped. And then you hope to wake up the next day and like have some juice. I'm a freaking announcer, and it's tiring. So like it's not nothing. It's not nothing, and it's a lot being put on these young people. And conference realignment is what it is. It was done for football, but like it's hurting the other sports. I think that's pretty clear.